All right, guys, we're just going to jump right into this one because this one's one of the most polarizing things this offseason. In fact, when you're talking about the number 10 overall pick, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone knows we need to fix the trenches, and that is going to be the biggest task this offseason. And we've got a really good opportunity to do that with only 4 players under contract. In fact, we should only have 3 by the time free agency starts because there's no way Ryan Bates should keep his contract. $4 million, 0 dead cap if we cut him, and we've learned through hard experience the best ability is availability. So as you see Tevin Jenkins right there on the front of your screen, it sounds like the Bears are parting way with Tevin Jenkins. Well, we've thought up to this point that Trey Smith is probably not going to be available for the Bears. We give full credit to CHGO. This is Phil Yates from on their show earlier today. They had him on as a guest. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. In fact, I'll probably link it in here so you guys can see it. It's right around the 19-minute mark where he talks about this. But he is fully on the belief that Trey Smith is going to hit the open market. In fact, let me actually just play it. I'll just play the audio. I won't play the video of it, but just listen to what Trey Smith has to say here about, Phil Yates says about Trey Smith and the possibility of the Bears going after him in free agency, and I really love it. All right, I will link this in the description. Go check it out if you get a chance. It's a 2-hour episode they did today because of the excitement of Ben Johnson coming over. But this is Phil Yates on with Carm and Greg Braggs.
This job was appealing not just because of Caleb Williams, but because this job's got a lot of flexibility to it going forward. You've got very, very healthy cap structure going forward. Lots of space to work with, not a lot of bad deals. You've moved on from guys like Nate Davis, big swing and a miss. We get it, right? But how many players on this roster right now are you sitting there and saying to yourself, holy crap, like that's a big headache that we have to go find some medicine for? I say that because what it allows the Bears to do is be pretty dynamic this offseason. If they want to go spend in free agency, they can do so. They've got the resources to. They have planned well enough for the present and the future that dipping their toe into free agency this year is not going to compromise their ability to retain some of the young true blue guys going forward. Trey Smith is a true blue free agent. The reason why he's going to hit the open market absent a franchise tag, which I am not expecting, is not because the Chiefs don't like him. It's because they got a lot of guys. They got the most expensive quarterback in terms of cash value over the next 4 years. And they've got players getting top of the market money at their respective positions. The Chiefs have an embarrassment of riches of talent. So guys like Trey Smith don't come around very often, but I would equate him to what we saw last year with Xavier McKinney for the Green Bay Packers. The reason why he left the Giants was not because the Giants didn't want him. That guy's a stud. He ended up being a first-team All-Pro. So Trey Smith will be a name that comes to mind for me for Chicago.
All right, so there's a couple things that I want to. This is kind of a free talk episode, so I apologize. It's one direction on the line, but there's a couple things that hit home here. There's one huge reason the Bears really need to go after Hank. So I showed this in the earlier video. Let's move me out of the way. So Hank Fraley right now, I showed this earlier. This is kind of the rumor going around that Hank Fraley is the big name that we should be bringing over with Ben Johnson from the Lions. Here's a little bit of the history of Hank Fraley. He's always been associated with the offensive line. He was a player for the Steelers, the Eagles, the Browns, and the Rams till he retired. Then he started his coaching career at San Diego, then San Jose State. Broke into the NFL as an assistant offensive line coach, then back to UCLA as their offensive line coach. Then he's been with the Lions ever since. He's been that guy that's been in the background, that has been the soldier he just gets it done. He's very highly respected for his work with the offensive line. And as you look down here, he's taken 2 interviews already with the Seahawks. Most expected him to have already signed with the Seahawks as their offensive coordinator. I wonder why he might be dragging his feet a little bit. I think Ben Johnson wants to bring him with him. Here's the huge reason why that's big. You get someone like Hank Fraley, and then all of a sudden we have all these holes on the offensive line, and I've talked about that as a weakness. But as you just listen to Phil Yates, it can actually be a huge strength for someone like Hank Fraley and Ben Johnson trying to rebuild this team. Ben Johnson earlier today addressed Hallis Hall and said, look, we got a lot of work to do. I'm not delusional about it. I know what we have ahead of us. There's a lot of work. This is where Hank Fraley can come in. He can come in and right off the bat be a huge asset to recruit guys, to bring them. And one of those prime examples is what they did with Kevin Zeitler this last year. So I mentioned Kevin Zeitler in a couple of my mock drafts, and some people kind of scoffed at that because he's 34 years old. 34 years old is not that old, especially when he's been an absolute soldier. He's not someone with lingering injuries that's had issue after issue. He was the third highest ranked guard overall this year out of anybody. You can see he had a really resurgent year, and that's coming over to Detroit with Hank. So 86.8 was his overall grade this year. His run blocking grade was stellar, and that's the way the Lions used them with Ben Johnson and Hank Fraley. So if I'm a betting man, I really do think if Hank Fraley comes over, that the Bears would want to offer Kevin Zeitler a contract. He did a 1-year contract this last time, $6 million. His contract before that was with the Ravens, 3 years, 22.5, 7.5 million, I don't know, that's almost, anyways, the math, it's around 7.5 million a year. You can see it was a little bit down there. He had a huge start to his career with Cincinnati, then he went to Cleveland, the New York Giants, Baltimore, now with Detroit, but he's getting older, so he should still be on a decent value. With the resurgent year he had, it was probably going to be somewhere around $8 million, as you see I estimated here. I'd have no problem giving him that. And if he signed for the same value he had before, $6 million a year, just to round out his career until he retires, give him 2-3 more years, I would be very happy with the Bears signing him as their right guard to have some stability there. He hardly ever has penalties at all. And look at the low pressure rates, 18, 19, 16, 17. So I understand age is a concern for a lot of people. And I understand a lot of people automatically rejected that on the mock drafts. But I think it's a huge opportunity for the Bears to go after Kevin Zeitler. Now, with that being said, Trey Smith is about to hit the open market. He's 26 years old. All I'm saying with this video is there is a clear opportunity that you don't want to have every single guy on the offensive line rolled over to be a rookie on year one. We don't want to be drafting 7 rookies to be able to start 4 of them and be able to have some of them learn in the wings. You want to have some experience. Kevin Zeitler might be that. Maybe the answer is Trey Smith. Maybe it is. So here's Trey Smith. He was the 12th overall ranked guard this year. Tevin Jenkins the 14th. And you see guys like that some Bears fans have wanted to come in. Mekhi Becton is very high on that list as well. So there's some options here. The one thing I don't love about Mekhi Becton, his pass blocking grade is very low, and he has allowed more pressure than almost anybody in free agency. Of the top guys, I shouldn't say anybody. There's some backups and low guys that haven't done as well. But Trey Smith is the creme de la creme, and if he's available and the Bears go after him, I have no problem with that. In fact, I say back up the Brinks truck, pay this man, give him, $22 million would break the market right now, 20.5. 21 is the most high paid. You can see Landon Dickerson right now, who was... 4th on the list, and Chris Lindstrom before that was the highest paid, and he's number 1 on the list. Those guys are getting paid $20.5, $21 million. Pay Trey Smith $22 million a year. Pay him $22.5 million a year. Break the market if you have a 26-year-old guard that's just coming out of his rookie contract and he's playing at the high level he has every single year, top 10 guard every single year. Go ahead and pay him. But if you want to go with an approach like Kevin Zeitler and you bring Hank Fraley over and that helps that, and the run blocking schemes that they had in Detroit that we can bring here can help him as well, I'm all in favor of that as well. So just as a quick review, here's where the offensive line stands right now. We've got our right tackle. We've got a gap left tackle. Braxton Jones, he's got 1 more year in my opinion. He can prove it 1 more year. If we draft in the top 10, I do see them putting them at left guard because the left tackle position is very difficult to adapt to right off the bat. You're going to have some bumps and bruises. If we drafted Will Campbell or Kevin Zeitler in the first round, they're probably getting inserted to guard. Not because they're not quality left tackles. They could be, but this will help them adapt faster. My opinion, we still have the option. We could re-sign Tevin Jenkins. I know a lot of people don't love that idea, but what if we signed him on a Nate Davis-like contract with some incentives? Remember, Tevin Jenkins is a highly rated guard in this league. He's the 14th overall ranked guard and a top 9, I believe, left guard in the league this year. Maybe it was even higher than that. But you can see he's been a model of consistency. The one thing he hasn't been consistent on is availability. See how the other guys had 1,000 opportunities? He misses 3, 4, 5 games every season, and that's the frustrating part. But also, that's the reason might be able to get him for a Nate Davis type of contract. You see me talking about Trey Smith and Chris Lindstrom and all these guys at the top, Landon Dickerson getting $20 million, $22 million. If you can sign Tevin Jenkins on a value contract, this is Nate Davis's contract here. Sorry if that's confusing, but this is what Nate Davis got. 3 years, $30 million. If we sign Tevin Jenkins to that and then give him some kicker incentives and say, okay, 30 plus million, every game over 13 games in the season, you get an extra $1 million bonus. So you get an extra $4 million to round the year out, and we can restructure your contract after a couple of years. As long as it's a team-friendly and a player-friendly contract where there's opt-outs on both sides, I'm totally good with doing that. And that would help solidify so you have your left tackle, right tackle, left guard, right guard, and, hey, maybe you still do draft at the very top of the draft a Tyler Booker that can come in at left guard and replace Tevin Jenkins as soon as if we have opt-outs after year one and there's no guarantees, great, he can learn behind him for a year. And then you can still draft your Jared Wilson in the second or third round and have your starting center, still get Coleman Shelton on a good deal, and be able to have him be the starter over Coleman Shelton with a great backup. I mean, there's just a lot of really good options for the Bears in this scenario. And that if we do that, if we take Kevin Zeitler or Trey Smith or Tevin Jenkins or two of them and we solidify the guards through free agency, because remember, a lot of other positions, there's not strength in free agency this year. This guard position is one of the only ones. So that's why I'm putting this out tonight to kind of make your brains think about it. If we solidify both guards through free agency, Tevin Jenkins being the best available left guard in free agency, Trey Smith the best right guard, or Kevin Zeitler because of his connection and how he can continue to play at a high level. Remember, he was the third highest rated guard overall last year. That's not nothing. He's 34, yeah, but he's not 40. He's not 38. He's 34. He has 2 more good years in him, especially since he's been an Iron Man. He hasn't been missing that time. Look at all these blocks, all these offensive snaps that he's taken. That's literally missing no time for him. He's been healthy as a horse. It's really, really appetizing to me to have someone that's, that workhorse guy that could be on a more of a value contract, $6 to $8 million a year, solidify that right guard, and then we can still draft someone later. Then in those earlier rounds, we can take defensive players. We can take a safety if we need a safety. We can take a running back if we need a running back. No, I'm not talking about taking Ashton Jeanty in the first round. I'm so sick of the Ashton Jeanty in the first round. But we could still take Princely Uman-Mielen. We could take Kenneth Grant. We could take Walter Nolan. We could take Tyleik Williams. I mean, we can take all these guys on the defensive line that would help us solidify that by attacking offensive guard in free agency on both sides. This is my countdown now. My countdown is to get to March 10th to the 12th where free agency comes, and because I really believe getting Hank Fraley would make it so these free agent guards, Trey Smith, Kevin Zeitler, they would want to come to the Bears. There's no real good free agent centers, and there's not. People are talking about Drew Dahlman. He can't pass block. Coleman Shelton's better. So that's why I think we really have to hit center in this draft. And if we go tackle at the top of the draft and we go Campbell or Banks and move them into guard, I'm good with that too. But I'm really eager to see what's going to happen here at the guard position in free agency because it's one of the most rich, especially after what Phil Yates just said about Trey Smith. There's a real opportunity for the Bears to solidify both sides with some of the top guards in the league. That would make us instantaneously with Darnell Wright, Trey Smith, Kevin Zeitler, and Braxton Jones, and maybe even if we draft Kelvin Banks above him, I get it. If we do, there's a true opportunity there for the Bears to be a top 10 line in this first year under Ben Johnson. So this is important to point out. This is from my guide to the offseason for the draft and free agents. I left out Kevin Zeitler because of his age. I want us to build youth, and I said that. So Tevin Jenkins, 29 plays between a sack hit or between any pressure is what you should put there. So 29 plays. Trey Smith, 27 plays. So Tevin Jenkins actually allows fewer pressures than Trey Smith does. I don't love the Mekhi Becton thing. I do love his size, but the amount of pressures he allows. But I did adapt this so you guys can see adding Kevin Zeitler. There's Kevin Zeitler right there. So see Kevin Zeitler right here. 32 plays between a sack hit or a hurry, between a pressure, and his overall grades are some of the best in the entire league. Now remember, James Daniels was on an injured year. This is a very limited sample size. Maybe we do go after James Daniels. He had good grades, but he did have a lot of pressures that he allowed for the limited time that he was in, and it's a short sample size, really kind of a breakout moment for him. Not consistent over time. Kevin Zeitler, Tevin Jenkins, Trey Smith really established consistency over many years, over their rookie contract at least, and Kevin Zeitler for over a decade. So I really like that. I'm coming around to the idea of maybe these two guys being our right and left tackle or right and left guard, and then we have more money to spend on other spots as well. Then here you guys go. Just a quick reminder of what the draft is going to look like. And Tate Ratledge, really, if you're looking at pressures, he's the one that's allowed the least. But, Georgia didn't allow a lot of pressures at all. So anybody from Georgia is going to have really high numbers there. But there's some really good options. Wyatt Millum, Armand Memba. I mean, there's some good options. So I'll just leave that there if you want to look at it. But I am all in on the Bears getting Hank Fraley for this reason, for the offensive line. Swoop in before the Seahawks hire him up. The Seahawks hired him for the second time. That happened. The Bears need to get him into the office, get Ben Johnson on him, and say, look, dude, we want you for the offensive coordinator. We want to build this thing with you, and I think that would be exciting for Hank Fraley too. So let me know what you guys think, though. Would you be okay re-signing Tevin Jenkins on a value contract? Would you want Trey Smith or nobody else? Would you be okay with Kevin Zeitler in his older age with how well he's been playing? The third best guard in the league this last year. That's not nothing, guys. So there's options. There's options. I am working on the next mock draft with, less. I did a Lions and a Saints themed one. It wasn't my priority one. It wasn't like we have to have this one. My favorite one. It was just kind of showing with Ben Johnson coming now. So I am working on another one that's more realistic to what I think the ideal mock season, off season is. I've done a ton of them, I know, but that seems to be what everybody likes the most. So I'm going to give some more ideas on those. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't hit the like button, please do that. If you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of the channel. Until next time, Da Bears and Bear Down.